If you are considering buying a new construction home here in Georgia and you don't want to get a new construction house that has mold, watch this video. There has been a huge surge in new construction here in the Northeast Metro Atlanta area. Right now, there are some really great opportunities to buy new construction, and many people are drawn to the idea of having a brand new home. In some areas, you can find a brand new build for the same price as a resale home, which to some people is an absolute no-brainer. So what do you need to know before buying a new construction home? Hi, I'm Sarah Maslowski with KeyPoint Homes Group, and I am a local real estate agent right here in the Northeast Metro Atlanta area, helping clients from all over the country relocate right here to Georgia. The thought of a brand new home is appealing to so many, but you can still run into nightmares with new construction. So what do you need to know about the new construction process to keep yourself protected and hopefully avoid some of these costly mistakes and bad builders? The first thing you need to know about buying a new construction home is you get what you pay for. This seems like a pretty obvious statement, but sometimes people assume that just because a house is brand new that it's going to be perfect. When you are buying a home from a massive builder, one that builds hundreds of neighborhoods in each state all across the country, you are not going to get the same quality as you are from a smaller builder. When you're building 90,000 homes a year in states all across the country, you don't have to worry about your name and reputation as much as you do as if you were a smaller builder who relies on positive word of mouth to continue building a successful business. These mega builders are the ones that you see on the nightly news being complained about by homeowners with major issues, from plumbing issues, collapsing ceilings, and so on. Now, does this mean that every single house they build is bad? Of course not. But it does mean that there is a track record of not great houses. If you walk through other homes that are at completion and notice a whole slew of issues that need to be taken care of, you can expect that your house is going to have these same issues. I had a client purchase a home from a smaller builder for just over $500,000, and it was one of the best built homes I had seen in a very long time. The only time I have ever had a client cancel the purchase of a new construction home due to poor quality was with a mega builder. Now, these mega builders are able to build a more affordable home due to the sheer volume that they produce every year. So a lot of times they are going to be the one of your few options if you are looking around the mid 400s and below. Most people are very satisfied with the quality that they get for the price they paid. So it's all personal experience. But you have to keep in mind that you get what you pay for, and not all builders are created equally. With some large nationwide builders, you may not ever hear some of the horror stories because in order for buyers to get their problems straightened out, they have to essentially sign a non-disclosure agreement, meaning they can't go around and talk about the nightmare that they experienced. Now, I have never worked with a client that had this scale of an issue, but I have heard of people who have gone through this experience. I would advise you to thoroughly research the builder you choose, even go knock on doors of neighbors in the neighborhood and ask what people think about the quality and construction of their home for some firsthand experience with the builder and the specific crew that is working on the neighborhood you're interested in. Another situation that can turn into a nightmare is not having a home inspection on a new construction home. Just because it is brand new does not mean that it is perfect, and I would highly recommend that you move forward with having a home inspection from a third party come in before drywall is installed and just before your final walkthrough. Usually home inspectors do this as a package deal, and there typically isn't a ton of stuff that is found during the pre-drywall stage, but it's still a great idea to have one done. It's definitely going to give you the feel for the quality of the builder and give you peace of mind that everything was done according to code. I recently helped a client who had his final inspection just before we were supposed to do our final walkthrough with the builder, and the home inspector found mold in the basement. This is something that could have very easily been missed during our final walkthrough. Then the buyer would have brought a brand new home that needed several thousands of dollars worth of mold remediation done. And if they didn't realize the issue, it could have just gotten worse and lead to an even more costly issue. You may have seen home inspectors on TikTok or Instagram recently making videos about some of the wild issues they find in new construction houses, whether whether it just be sloppy work or serious issues that could lead to expensive repairs in the future. Now, I don't want you to watch this video and write off the thought of buying a new construction house, but there are still great builders out there, and resale homes have their problems as well. I just want to prepare you for some of the things that we see and hear to best prepare you for making your home purchase. One of the easiest ways to stumble into some major issues while buying a new construction home is to not use your own agent representing you and your interest. When you buy a new construction home, there will be an agent that works for the builder. The builder has hired them to sell the homes in the neighborhood and to keep the builder's best interest at heart. You need someone who is going to have your best interest at heart and stand up for you in case something goes wrong. I'll give you an example of something that happened recently while working with a client who was buying a new construction house. It was very important to this buyer to have a home that was going to be finished in May of next year because they had some pretty big life events to work around and they needed to sell their house so they didn't have two mortgages at the same time. We chose this particular house because it was going to take the builder 10 months to build this home. So everything was going to line up perfectly. And when we wrote the contract to close the house in May, that was the date that was agreed upon. Well, I got a phone call from the builder's agent a few months after we went under contract, and they said, hey, the builder's actually a little bit ahead of schedule and just wanted to give you a heads up that this home is now going to be ready at the end of March. I talked with my buyer and we decided that moving things up 6 weeks wasn't going to be that big of a deal. It wasn't ideal, but things were still going to work out. So we made a verbal agreement about the new date. Well, 6 weeks later, the builder's agent calls and says, we need to move the closing again. And now, instead of closing in March, we are wanting to close the beginning of January. Now that's like a full 5 months earlier than what we had contractually agreed upon. The builder's agent was very adamant that if we wanted to keep our original closing date, we were going to have to be the ones that would have to pay a huge penalty in order to do this. As you can imagine, myself and the clients were very adamant that we were not going to be closing this in January, and we were not going to pay the builder's interest and carrying cost that would be incurred by finishing the build in January and then not closing until May. I've had scenarios where a builder had to delay closings by a few weeks, but that was mainly during pandemic times when everything was on back order and there were all kinds of supply chain issues. But I've never had a builder move a closing date significantly forward, especially not by months in advance. Now, I don't think this builder was suddenly way ahead of schedule and able to get this home done way faster than what they originally thought. But I think rather it was kind of a mistake in miscommunication that the agent and the builder had versus what we had been told. Now, if I wasn't there fighting tooth and nail for my buyer, I don't think that that builder would have eaten the cost and stuck to our original closing date. I think they would have either force the buyer to pay for the carrying fees or close earlier, neither of which my buyer should have had to do. There have also been several instances where I have worked with a buyer who was buying a new construction home, and we have done the home buyer orientation, and there have been some pretty major items that were pointed out that needed to be taken care of that oftentimes buyers don't notice, or they think the request is too big to ask the builder about. I was recently in a home where the main bathroom needed the whole shower to be retiled, and half of the carpet in the upper level of the house was slightly different from the other half, and there needed to be major grading issues taken care of in the front of the house. Now, this is quite a list of repairs, and I hate to say it, but it's not uncommon to have several items that need to be taken care of prior to closing outside of paint touch-ups. But some builders are better than others about correcting their mistakes. Occasionally we will hear the famous line, "That's just the way it is." And that's where I have to step in and say, no. Those are two different kinds of carpet in the same room. It's not just the way it is, and we need you to fix this. If you didn't have an agent supporting you, you might not know what is within your rights to have taken care of and get stuck with something that a builder knows is ultimately not right. They just didn't feel like fixing it because they don't have an agent holding their feet to the fire to make sure it gets done. Now, once you choose a home in a new construction neighborhood, you have to have the confidence in the job that they will do and let the builder build the house. Now, I know I just told you all of the crazy things that I have seen in new construction homes, but you also can't attempt to micromanage a builder. If you think hounding them every step of the way will get you a better house, I can most likely assure you that it will not. There's the old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but that doesn't apply in this scenario, and it will just make for an uncomfortable experience, not a better built house. So you have to be patient, and once the house is finished, we can go through with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that everything is the way it is and how it should be. That is the process for calling out things that need correcting with the builder. If you point out things that are wrong ahead of time, and I'm not talking about things that are like majorly wrong, like the stairway in the wrong location or things like that, but going through the house with a fine-tooth comb and pointing out cosmetic details and touch-ups and dings before the home is finished is just going to cause the builder to keep saying, the home's not finished, the home's not finished, the home's not finished. So you get the point. You have to let the builder kind of deliver a finished product to you before we go through the house and make a list of everything that needs to be repaired. So what do you think? Are you still team new construction, or does a resale house sound better to you? Let me know in the comments. And if you're thinking about making a move to Georgia, I want to be your real estate agent. You can contact me by clicking on the link in my pinned comments below this video. If you are considering buying a new construction home here in Georgia and you don't want to get a new construction house that has mold, watch this video.